Hello, beautiful soul, strong heart, and deeply human dreamer. Welcome to the Soul Health Mentor Podcast. Today, I have the honor to interview Timea Urban. Timea is a registered nurse, a life and success coach, and she is also the founder of Urban Healer. She loves to bridge science with personal transformation. And that's really what I love about you, Timea, and I'm so looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. We have so much to talk about. I'm thrilled to have this chat.
Yes, and the listeners, they will have so much that they can take away. And we have done a lot of talking behind the scenes, so we're all juiced up, and I'm really, really looking forward to hearing your story. I wanted to let you know that, and also the listeners, we met in person in Toronto at a beautiful event called the Whispers in the Rain Impact Tour. And we met and we connected and we had a chat, and then we felt like we really, really need to do this in a podcast. And we're even doing it in a podcast swap, but I'll tell you more about that later. What inspired me about you, Tamaya, is really that you are a registered nurse. So you've been in that system and in that field of working, but you also created a business using your natural given talents and gifts or something that you're born with. And you've created this beautiful business. So I would love to start us off by asking you very simply,
Mhm.
when did you first receive that dream spark of something new? Like you were working as a registered nurse, but all of a sudden there's something else calling you. Tell us more about that.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say that it was a spark. It was a heavy hit from the universe, quite literally. I was going through a challenging time in my life, and I mean, I don't recommend doing this unless you're really courageous. And clearly, I was naive at the time. And I went to Nicaragua. It was a yoga and giving back retreat. I was supposed to be there for almost 2 weeks. And I was like, universe, heal me. I'm ready. I know there's something more. Don't say that out loud unless you're ready to get rocked. So the next day, I was in a surfing accident, tore my MCL, and I literally was flattened. So it was the universe saying, "Oh, you want spirituality? Let's get you to your knees," quite literally. And I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" So I was told I'll never walk without a permanent disability. And I went to multiple doctors. The doctors were like, sorry, like you have nerve damage and you're not going to be able to run. You're not going to be able to be a bedside nurse. You're not going to be able to do any of those things because you're going to have a limp. And something within me was like, no, I don't subscribe. I was 29 at the time and I was like, there's absolutely no way. Like that's no. Scientifically, definitely a way. But for me, something within me was like, absolutely not. So I was desperate. And as desperate people do, you go online on Google at like 1 in the morning, and I typed in non-invasive healing modalities. And I was just like, give me something. Because at this point, I'm very logical. So it has to be something science driven, obviously. And what came up was Reiki. And very honestly, I was like, what in the crap is that? This is a hoax. It's a lie. This is stupid. What someone's going to hover their hands and heal me? I'm like, this is literally the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And again, something above me, within me, it wasn't my voice, said, you have no choice. Lean into it. And I was like, oh, I am desperate. I have no choice. So, next Google search was Reiki healer in Toronto. And that started my Reiki journey. I found somebody, and it was funny because when I went in, I was like, I'm fine. Just my knee needs healing. And she literally laughed out loud and was like, your chakras are not in your body. You are very unwell. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? This is fine. So the healing journey started on my knee and then slowly worked up my chakras. And my entire world changed. I've never been spiritual. I've never believed in anything greater beyond me. It's like I think I've always connected to it, but I numbed it out because it's just too much for me to take in. And then slowly, layer by layer, I went into this really deep vortex of healing. I ended up becoming a Reiki master teacher. This got me into the Akashic Records. I was teaching yoga. And then all of a sudden, I started healing the layers of my trauma, my generational trauma. And then by accident, I became a life coach along the way. Is this short story?
Holy, holy, I am so grateful you're sharing this with us. And I really do want to reflect back what I heard in a language that is universal for the listeners as well. So I know you did say like it wasn't a spark, a dream spark, and you do actually say something that is very true. I just use the dream spark as the ignition point, right? Like it was the ignition point.
Well, there was
Sometimes the
fire.
ignition point,
There was fire.
yes, and what I would like to highlight at this point is that there's a lot of dream activation out there that is romantic and sexy and wonderful and beautiful. But sometimes a dream spark is a messy wake up call that's really painful.
Yep.
So you literally went through that. So I want the listeners to know that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. If there's currently a messy wake up call in your life, yes, that can be a dream spark. But then what you did so beautifully, Timea, you did listen. So it takes listening and initiative. So you were initiative, right? You were Googling, you were finding something. Your mind is telling you certain things, but you are also hearing that voice. And
Yeah.
then so you are hearing the soul yes, even though you might be begrudging and you don't like it and you're stomping your feet.
Mhm. Mhm.
So all of this is what I want the listeners to hear. It's all normal. It's all good. You're not wrong. And then you stepped into the spiral, and it literally was a spiral because it took you deep into your own healing. And now we've just, in the shortest amount of time, obviously, this was, how long was this phase for you? Just to put it, to make it realistic.
Now, I don't even want to say it out loud because I think it'll scare the listeners, but I would say my entire 30s were the deepest healing vortex ever, where rather than coming out of the vortex, I feel like I was going deeper inside. But then it was also
Mhm.
uncovering my purpose, my spiritual gifts, why I'm here, all the unlearning, unprogramming I had to do. And it was layer by layer, nugget by nugget, where that path was shown to me. And initially I was
Yeah.
resisting. Like I have to be very honest. I was like, I don't want to do this. This is like I want to be a nurse. I want to make my money and live my life. And like I don't really want to go here. And the universe was like, well, you either go there with your permission or we'll drag you. You have those two options, but you're going. And I was like, oh God, I'm buckled in. But it was the best thing ever. So I would say sometimes that healing vortex can take a while, but you're never going to be taken somewhere you can handle. And the universe always has the best intentions in mind. And I'm so grateful I went there because it brought me exactly here.
Yes, and I honestly think I have no idea um, who's going to listen in this moment, right? You never know. So it might be someone that's 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. It doesn't really matter. That's the beautiful thing about this is universal, like the dream spark and the soul, yes, and the spiral step in the sense that healing is part of it. Empowerment is part of it. Someone that is, I'm 51, so I can totally relate to what you say, my whole 30s. Like for me, I was in that healing and empowerment vortex for a very, very long time
Yeah.
before I feel that my life's work was born. I did want to put it in perspective because it sounded so easy to talk about it now, but there was a whole life chapter. And you courageously, even with the resistance and even with the like, I don't want to do this. I just want to be a nurse and I just want to have money and enjoy life. You did it, and now we're in the preservation chamber, right? We went from dream spark to soul yes, the spiral step in. Now we're in the preservation chamber. We now know, the listener knows, this was your 30s.
Mhm.
What did you discover? What did you discover? I know you have three pillars that you now talk about. So I would love to know what you discovered in what I call the preservation chamber.
Okay, beautiful. So, as I was on my healing journey and when I discovered Reiki, I was like, oh my goodness, this is it. I'll be a Reiki master. I'll teach and share Reiki with the world. I'll teach yoga and I'm done. And that's it. And the universe is like, absolutely not, my love. This was just the foundation that you're going to build your healing journey, your business, and absolutely everything that you have to offer for this world. That's just like step one. But I'm glad you think that's it, as the universe is giggling from above, right? So I became a life coach, and that's because I ended up having a very transformative experience with a friend of mine, and I was literally doing her a favor. She's like, do you mind if I just practice this technique on you? It's neurolinguistic programming. It won't take long. I need to get some practice. And being a good friend, I was like, sure, cute, let's do this. And she did a technique, and I'm not kidding. In 20 minutes, I dropped a trauma I've been carrying for 3 decades. And I was like, you just shifted my brain. And she's like, yeah, it's called neurolinguistic programming. And I was like, what do you mean? I've been going to therapy for a very long time, spending a lot of money. And you just like, bing, and it's done. And I viscerally felt something click, and I felt my body lighten. And I was like, what was that? And that's how it became a life coach. So I realized that we have a subconscious mind, and you can do things with that subconscious mind. You can rewire it, you can reprogram it. And I got really, really deep into that work. So EFT tapping, hypnosis, time technique was really brain heavy, which me being a science nerd was really appealing to me. And then I realized that something was missing. And I think we tend to forget in a very loving way, and we're just naive humans doing our human thing on earth. We forget we have a body. And for me, I always thought the body was, nourish it, move it, make sure it rests, and you're done. Mm, we're missing the piece of the nervous system, which for me is the tie between the brain and the physical body. So, nervous system regulation was that next step that I really learned. And then through that, I learned that we also need to do somatic healing. With somatics, we're able to speak to the subconscious mind from a different perspective, because all of the ailments you have in your body are reflections of the subconscious beliefs that are hiding in your brain that you can't access all the time. So for me, those pillars, and I'm always number one guinea pig. I'm client number one. Everything is always tested on me first. No animal testing, of course, just on me. And I realized that the three pillars of true healing, transformation that lasts, is your subconscious, your nervous system, and then your physical body, the somatic work. And then that is what created my business, which I've just summarized in a 10-year gap of learning, of going deep.
Oh man, I really do love how you're taking us through what I call the soul map spiral, and you sharing your story with me and with the listener. And it's really inspiring for me to listen to
Thank
how boldly, and it was boldly stating what you wanted, and then you received your dream spark, and then you, even though you didn't like it, you
you.
courageously stepped in, your soul yes, and your spiral step in, and you learned about these three pillars, and now you're really in the business, right?
Yeah.
And now you're living it. It you're helping people. You're living your dream basically.
Yeah.
And in the spiral. So now I want to talk about, where was there ever a time in your dream and in your healing and empowerment work where you faced a situation where you were out of alignment, but you didn't notice it straight away? Sometimes
Mm.
our dream is so passionate and we don't notice it straight away. Was there a time when that happened?
Absolutely. I mean, it's very funny, not funny, but it would be my marriage. And bless him, we had a beautiful time together. We had to meet. There was a lot of learning and healing that we both went through as we met. And on the surface level, we clicked the boxes we both wanted. But then I realized, and unfortunately, it was after we had a miscarriage, and I was just shocked and shook, and like my entire body shut down. And that was actually the first time I've ever slowed down. I move very quickly. I'm a generator. I love what I do. I get a lot of ideas, and they fuel me, and I'm always go, go, go. And I've never fully slowed down. And after the loss of our baby, I had no choice. Like my body was like, we're not moving. We are completely done. You need to lay down. And I've never done that in my life. And when I did that, my nervous system reset. And I know it doesn't really make sense, but for some reason, the hormonal changes and that grief process, like my nervous system fully reset and it went back to like operating system of what you have when you first arrived. And I was like, oh, this is lovely. I actually feel what regulation is. And when I really, really slowed down, I started seeing things that aren't working that I didn't want to see. And when it comes down to it, sometimes you realize you don't want to be loved in a certain way, or you require support that will not be given to you. And for me, I had to make the decision of do I shove that down, pretend it's not there, or do I take the biggest risk of my life and leave my marriage? And that was really scary because in my head, I was like, I really want to be married. I want to be in a partnership. I actually do really want to be a mother. Oh, well, I'm in my late 30s. This is not a good idea. I just sold all of my things and like my home, moved to a very tiny town to support him and his career. And then all of a sudden, I need to just walk away from everything and start from scratch, which society is going to be like, wow, you're failing. You're really failing. You don't have any of the check marks you're supposed to have at this point. But I had no choice. And I realized I'm not in alignment. And I also saw that my business hit kind of like a max. And I knew that for me to be able to continue scaling and not from a, I want to make $1 million, but there's people I'm supposed to meet and assist and guide through this process. And I can't do it living where I was in the environment that I was in. And I had to choose something bigger and greater, even though it made no sense logically. And again, biggest learning lesson of my life. And I know both of us grew in a really beautiful way from this experience that was incredibly painful and it was very challenging, but we were both in a much better place because of that.
I'm so grateful for you
Mm.
sharing so generously and openly because I really am inspired myself by your courage and by your listening and by you really standing for the dream that wants to come through that you didn't realize, right? You were fighting it all the way, but you were still doing it. And it will serve the listeners so much to hear a real life story that is a little bittersweet, like very successful. You have a beautiful practice, the Urban Healer, and we'll talk more about where the listeners can find you. You also have a podcast with amazing conversations. So that is what the world sees. And you just mentioned it, right? Like that's where the world would say, oh, you're really successful. But getting there was also not that easy, where society is also telling you other things like, oh, you're failing. So
Yeah.
what I loved about listening to your story is that you beautifully felt and listened,
Mhm.
applied your own knowledge. Obviously, you knew a lot by now, like somatic healing and nervous system and subconscious, so you could see it. But then to align to the thing that will move your dream that is already successful, but into the next stage.
Mhm.
Um, at this point, I just wanted to give the listeners a little bit of context so they can really see how the soul map spiral is showing up universally in each one of us, and also the anatomy of a dream. So you had the awakening phase where you were fighting it all the way, but you did it anyway. Then you became the person. You became the person that is so
Yeah.
successful in the urban healer practice. And then you were meeting the threshold of alignment, which is really like relationships, right? Sometimes are the relationships sovereign? Are they serving us? And how did you express it? Like once you knew it,
Mhm.
because now we're going into the expression gate.
Mhm.
Once you knew, because that could be scary too, to say to
Oh,
your partner,
totally.
hey, I think so. So how did you do it?
Well, what I think is funny is I knew I'm meant to be a healer, and that was my spark of like what needs to come through me. And then I thought that was being a nurse. And then when I was a nurse, I realized that's not it. And then I was like, oh, it's being a Reiki master and teaching yoga. And I was like, yeah, but no. And then it slowly led me on this journey. And even with being his wife and being able to hold space for him, I was like, wait, this is the next level of my business. And then I was like, mm, I needed that, but that's not it. So, I mean, I was just very honest and I was like, I know you know and you don't want to see it either. Like nobody wants to go through a divorce. It's just not what you want to go through. And that decision was made 100% by my body. My brain was like,
Hmm.
don't, don't do it.
Hmm.
Suck it up, figure it out. Absolutely not. there's so much shame if you leave and then you have a failed marriage. And a lot of programming was coming through my mind. But I've learned over the years that my decisions are made with my body. And if my body says it's a yes, even if my brain is screaming, I have to listen to that. And I'm very grateful that I've made a lot of very large decisions like that, and it's never led me in the wrong direction. So then over
Yes.
time, when you build that self trust and the intuition, you know it's going to work out. And when I told him,
Yes.
I was just, listen, if I'm not in alignment, but neither are you. This marriage isn't working for either one of us. And for us to just be ships passing in the night and feel like we're roommates, where neither one of us is getting the love we want and deserve, no one's winning. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to be the one who has the courage first because this will not get better. And in like a little side note, we did the things that you need to do. And I know for me personally, I exhausted anything and everything I could have done to save the marriage. And when we hit that point, I was like, you got to call it. I'm sorry, but someone's going to have to call it. And then, of course, now I get more logical where I'm like, let's do the math. Do I want to leave when I'm 50, 60, 70?
Mhm.
Or are we honest with each other, part ways, and then we both have an opportunity to, move in our own directions and do the healing, and then whatever's meant for us will come to us in another way.
Yes. Oh, so much goodness in your story. I know it was tough. I know it was rough, but you're on the other side now.
Yeah.
And what I want the listeners to understand is that the preservation chamber, which you specialize in the work of what needs to happen in healing wise, but also empowerment, like acting on your own behalf. But then it takes so much courage at every stage. It takes courage when the dream spark shows up in a messy way. It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
The soul, yes, the keep showing up in the spiral. And then you're doing the work, you become this new person, and then it takes so much courage again to express that
Yeah.
and to first align, then express it. But now I want to celebrate with you
Mhm.
that you are on the other side, because now in the soul map spiral, you'd be at the level where integration done, right? You've done lather, rinse,
Yes.
repeat, preservation, expression, align, like lather, rinse, repeat. But now you're on the other side.
Mhm.
And now we are somewhere that we both hold very dear. And in our chatter before, I learned that you lived in Switzerland. So you totally understand the word Lebensfreude, which is the
Mhm.
joy of life.
Mhm.
And the podcast Soul Health Mentor started with the tagline out of your mind and into your heart.
Oh,
And
wow.
this iteration, though you'll love it, iteration is living your joy as the richest version.
Woo!
That's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you are there. And I want the listeners to know that it might be hard, it might take a lot, it might be scary. You might think your dream can't come true, but that integration done is the first peak of joy and richness.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to tell us what in your life right now on the other side of all of that makes you feel really joyous and rich.
Beautiful. I love where I live. And it's funny because I lived in Toronto for well over a decade and I left in 2023. So it was like post pandemic and I was very burnt out. I was a pandemic nurse. It was horrific. And I was so overstimulated before I knew what nervous system regulation was. And I had to, like, I needed to leave. So I went to a really, really small town. And I'm like, I just want there to be a lake. I want some trails. I want silence. I don't want people. Leave me alone. And I learned what boredom was, which is beautiful because your nervous system needs boredom and calm. And then I got too bored and I got overregulated, which is amazing. But for me to leave Toronto and then return to Toronto allowed me to have the appreciation of, wait, this is home. And given that I've lived in many different places over my lifetime, I had a really hard time choosing what home is and what feels safe. I've moved a lot, so there's a lot of ungroundedness and also probably some fears in finding home and what if I lose it? But then I feel like I lost and left Toronto, but then coming back, it's finally landed that this is my home. And I also never knew what neighborhood to live in. And I've lived in multiple neighborhoods in Toronto. And then the one that I'm in right now, I'm just like, you're literally perfect. I love if I go this way, I get that. If I go this way, I get that. And it's the perfect balance of calm, but then busy and lively and culture. So I that's what brings me joy, my surroundings, which I think are really important in the healing journey.
Yes, and I could feel the joy and the richness in it. So now the listeners have really they have been inspired by you, empowered by you, um, awed by you because I feel all the same things, and I love that. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. So I want the listeners to know where they can find you. That your practice is called the Urban Healer, correct?
Yes. Yes. So I'm based in Toronto. I do sometimes do in-person events. However, my practice is mainly virtual. This way I can access people anywhere. I have a lot of clients who are based in Europe and in the States and on the West Coast. So this the easiest way for you to have access to me. So you can find my offerings online. It's the urbanhealer.ca, CA because I'm in Canada. You can also find me on my podcast. It's called Discover Your Joy. That has been my biggest learning with me and my clients. We're very good at struggling. We're very good at that. We're very good at things being hard. But then when things get good, which is logically what we want, we self sabotage, we shut down. So it's discovering what your joy is and then also living in that joy and allowing that to be your new norm and for it to feel safe. And then, of course, you can find me on Instagram, which is the period urban period healer. And yes, urban is my last name. So it's a wonderful play on words and it's easy to remember.
Ah, thank you so much, Timea. Do you have one last bit of encouragement, advice for the listeners that are at the threshold of any of the challenges we face when we're really making a dream come true? Is there any advice you would like to part?
Absolutely. The number one thing is stop comparing to people around you, especially social media, which is a lie and it's fake. You have this comparison that you're going to be stuck on, that you're doing it wrong. You're going to want to do it like someone else because you think that's what success is, but it's not. Your dream chose you and it's going to manifest in your own ways. You also don't manifest it over a day like everyone online is like, I became a millionaire overnight. No, you didn't. That is a lie. I also didn't build this incredibly successful empire overnight. I've been doing this since 2019. So it's been a long time and good things take time, but put on the cone, the one you put on dogs, and just stay in your own lane, on your own mat, on your own vision, and straight ahead and keep going. Don't look at what everyone else is doing. It's not inspiration and it's not going to help you. It's going to frazzle you, dysregulate you, and then you're going to get caught in how you're doing it wrong. Keep going one step at a time, one breath at a time. And I promise the universe will guide you there.
Thank you, Timea. It's been
You're
absolutely
welcome.
amazing. Thank you for sharing so boldly and so courageously. Inspiration to me and all the listeners. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. And we have another podcast where Nadia was on mine and we had this beautiful conversation. My goodness, like I'm gonna have to re-listen to it just to like write down the nuggets because it was so, so, so juicy. So make sure you're listening to both of them because they work beautifully together.
Thank you.